Truth be told, I did not have very high expectations when Bethesda dropped the trailer for Indiana Jones and the Great Circle. The first 3 films are absolute all-time classics, but with the later 2 being a bit lackluster, I didn't believe that Machine Games and Bethesda could pull this off, and we would be starved of another great adventure. But very quickly, my doubts were proved wrong, because this game is undeniably the best thing that has happened to the Indiana Jones franchise in decades, and makes for an awesome game with a great cast of characters, epic mysteries, and a fantastic story that has a similar vibe to the original Indiana Jones films. If you are a fan of the films, or if you just want a great single player game with a good story and adventure, then you really need to pick up this one.
I'm not a tourist.
Then what are you doing here?
Now, for this review, I won't be showing any major spoilers. The only minor spoilers are some early game puzzles, so you are free to watch this video and still be able to experience the story of this game to the fullest extent. So what is Indiana Jones and the Great Circle? Well, this single-player, first-person adventure game is set in 1937 between the events of Raiders of the Lost Ark and The Last Crusade. It is a completely fresh adventure that will feature you playing as your favorite professor of archaeology, Indiana Jones. Throughout this epic adventure, you will travel across the world to visit various landscapes, delve into ancient tombs, solve puzzles, fight Nazis, all with that classic indie charm just like the films. This game has a really strong start as it reprises the classic boulder scene from Raiders of the Lost Ark, and I find it quite poetic because not only is it a very faithful recreation of the scene, but it sets an expectation for the audience as to what you should anticipate for the remainder of the game, that being a brand new Indiana Jones adventure that has a similar feeling to the classic films.
Adios, Mila.
In this adventure, a mysterious and gigantic figure steals an ancient artifact from Marshall College, leading Indy on the trail to find out who stole it and why. Indy will team up with Gina, who is searching for her missing sister, and suspects that the Nazis have something to do with her disappearance. This, combined with the presence of a Nazi archaeologist, Voss, investigating for Vatican secrets, will have the player asking plenty of questions as you uncover more clues. Firstly, I have to say, the voice acting is really well done. Troy Baker, famous for a variety of roles, including Joel in The Last of Us and Sam Drake in Uncharted 4, takes on the lead role as Indiana Jones and does a faithful and phenomenal job bringing to life this classic film character.
Well, did you see his face?
Scarred. Dark skin. He spoke some form of Latin.
Gina is played by Italian actress Alessandra Mastronardi, who has an impressive resume featuring in various Italian films and TV shows, yet this is her debut video game title, and she nails the role.
Is that so? Dr. Indiana Jones, Professor Archaeology Department,
Hey.
Marshall College, Bedford, Connecticut.
Yeah? You ain't no nun, sweetheart.
The chemistry between Indy and Gina is reminiscent of previous lineups from the original films, and I was captivated by their performances. I was more than happy to put my controller down and watch the cutscenes that played out due to that combination of great writing and voice acting. I think keeping it classic using the Nazis as the primary villains was a great choice to help the game feel like one of the original films. The main antagonist, Voss, is convincing, and sure, it's that similar trope we've seen in previous Indiana Jones films where the Nazis are chasing an ancient secret or a relic which can provide them immense power. Yes, it isn't an overly ambitious story, but it's executed perfectly.
Ganz. Mich interessiert vielmehr, was Sie in meiner Abwesenheit mit meiner Ausgrabungsstelle angerichtet haben.
Now, this game is open world, meaning that while you can continue the main adventure being the secrets of the Great Circle, you can also explore areas to complete extra objectives and side quests. There is a good blend of side quests available, some of which will have their own puzzles to solve and hidden chambers to explore, whilst others may be a little more mundane, like running around the city taking pictures of symbols. Normally, when I play these sort of games, I tend to be the guy that does as much of the side stuff as possible and then will finish the main game later on in my playthrough. But this game was a rare example where I actually found myself gunning the main quest line in a more direct path. For me, the game did a really great job achieving its intention of being essentially a movie that you can play. So what happened was I got so invested in the main story that whenever I did side quests, I felt that it slowed up the pacing. For instance, there was one moment where I needed to purchase a rebreather to continue the main quest, but I didn't have enough money. So I had to do some side work that I didn't feel like doing at the time. Now, that's not a criticism. There's nothing wrong with this. There are plenty of games that do this sort of thing and do it well. It's just more of a testament to how good the main story is that I was so invested in it, I wanted to do nothing else. Now, if you did play the game like I did, you can revisit areas and complete any mysteries or field work that you missed later on, and there is some bonus content coming up in a future update. The only time where I felt a little bit of disconnect were with some minor bugs. There was one moment where I had a puzzle bug out on me that took a bit of tinkering as it wasn't working as intended. There were a couple moments where I'll say that the gameplay wasn't smooth, but this thankfully was at worst a minor hitch, and it didn't take away too much from the experience in my playthrough. Now, I ran this game on a PC with a 3080 Ti and a 12th gen Intel Core i7 12700KF along with 32GB of RAM. I was able to play most of this game with mostly high settings at 4K 60fps. Whilst my game didn't crash, I must admit, it really did feel I was right on the edge of what my machine could do. So if you are playing on PC, please maybe consult a couple different perspectives on specs to determine what you can run this game at. Because for me, it really did feel my PC was pushed to its absolute limit. The demands for this game spec-wise are quite high. In fact, if you are watching this video and you have played this game on PC, maybe in the comments, drop your specs and settings to help other viewers get a better understanding as to what they can expect their machine to output. Now let's talk a little bit more about the actual gameplay. Throughout your adventure, you'll be faced with numerous foes, most of which consist of either Italian fascists or Nazis, and chances are you'll be spending most of your game either sneaking around killing them one by one with various tools and weapons you can find in the environment, or you can go out guns blazing, but the game seems to actively discourage this, as every time I whipped out my revolver or picked up a rifle, enemies seem to be more aggressive, resorting to guns instead of tools and batons. I just got gunned down pretty quickly every time I seemed to open fire. Weapons aren't kept to be reloaded. You very much use the ammo that is left in the magazine, only to then use your rifle as a blunt weapon. Most of the combat was either beating people up with my fists or using what I could find in the world to knock an enemy down in just a couple of hits. The combat itself can be pretty frantic and sometimes ridiculous, but those goofy brawls and set pieces are very much Indiana Jones, and there are plenty of callbacks, such as this moment where the game is begging for me to deal with this swordsman just how Indiana Jones would have done so.
Why'd you have to do that?
Again, I wouldn't describe the combat as smooth, but the frantic, improvised, and at times somewhat slapstick fighting sequences are just adding to the overall charm that this game has. There are a couple of gameplay mechanics, including disguises to help you move around undetected by blending in with the locals. You still have to keep an eye out though, as enemy captains who are just a bit more clever than the regular goons can still spot you through your disguise. You can loot Nazi chests for cash, allowing you to buy guide maps to help you find hidden relics or other items, and completing quests or finding hidden collectibles awards you with points which can be spent on perks. The perk system is fairly straightforward in this game. Indy can search for books, which he'll add to his personal collection, but it also gives the player the opportunity to spend their adventure points to earn various buffs such as stronger damage output or the ability to get a second chance when downed by retrieving your lucky hat. Now, it wouldn't be Indiana Jones without some interesting puzzles, and I'm pleased to report that there is plenty on offer here right from the get-go. I always loved in the films when Indy would start putting together the pieces of the puzzle, he would start mumbling to himself as he figured out the way forward.
Longinus, a soldier who pierced the side of Jesus with a holy lance.
And as you consult your notebook or take photos in the environment, you get that similar feeling of excitement and anticipation when you want to find out what lies behind that next chamber door. At no point did I feel that the game was repetitive or recycling content, and instead I was experiencing fresh ideas and concepts the whole way throughout. I was extremely impressed with Indiana Jones and the Great Circle because I felt that this was an extremely difficult game to create and perhaps a near impossible task to execute, because if you tried to be too bold and go for something outrageous, then you lose that classic Indy vibe from the original films. But if you try and stick too true to the original formula, then you're going to be compared to those iconic adventure 1980s films, and you might say that is just too high of a bar to compete with. Either way, it's a risk, but the way this was executed was at such a high level that those comparisons can be made and it holds up true. And you can easily sink over 20 hours completing the main story and most of the side quests. The game is currently available on PC and Xbox Series X and S. Now, while it does earn its $70 price tag, it is also on Game Pass at no extra cost. So if you've got Game Pass, there's no excuse to not pick this up and give it a go. Even if you aren't a fan of Indiana Jones, I'm certain that this game will inspire you to go watch those 3 original films. Indiana Jones and the Great Circle will also release on PlayStation 5 in spring next year, so more people will be able to experience this awesome journey. While it released too late to be nominated for any Game of the Year awards in 2024, this game has absolutely earned my recommendation and was one of my favorite releases of the year. Those are my thoughts on Indiana Jones and the Great Circle, but now I want to hear from you. Please let me know down in the comments what you think about this game. Let me know if you've been playing it or how you're finding it. And if you enjoyed this video, then please leave a like and also consider subscribing so you don't miss out on my next video. To see another review, please click on the playlist on the right or roll the dice with a video YouTube thinks you'll like on the left. Thank you so much for watching. Lancy out.